Howdy guys, how's it going? I'm going to share a really cool and profound message today for the Divine Feminine and Masculine as well to hear from a personal story of ours, and I won't be telling too many private details, but I really feel it's Spirit was leading me to do this video to share it because a lot of it happened this morning actually of how it came about, and I want to share because I always follow my higher self and spirit in sharing. So I'm going to share, it's about when we went away on a holiday, him and I 10 years ago, and this happens to be the exact same week 10 years ago that we went away, but I didn't realize that. And I've never realized that any year after that. I've never, like, the day, the weeks passed and I've never realized until Sunday. My higher self showed me, and I always listen to my higher self, and I know when that happens there's some reason I'm being shown, and so I have to look at that situation, i.e. the holiday when we went away 10 years ago, and what I have to know about that, what I have to perhaps look at clearing, or is there something in there that I'm still holding back from, and or i.e. anything like that. So, pardon me. So, that's one thing I want to share, that always listen to your higher self, and always know, please don't shy away and be resistant to it, because you always want to better yourself, right? And your growth, and heal and evolve, and bring in, we had to release those layers to bring in so much more unconditional love, to live from a more unconditional loving space. And I know now, like, the more I never shy away from being shown, and I haven't for years. I used to years ago, but I don't anymore, because I know that it's only going to help me to be able to open my heart more, bring in more love, clear out more layers. I know we've got to have fun too while we're on this healing journey, but never shy away from it. So if you're the type of person that just like tries to get the messages and, oh, I don't want to listen to that now, I don't want to, please don't do that. Please do yourself, love yourself enough, and do yourself a favor to listen to your higher self, because your higher self knows when you're ready to be actually to face that, or if you've got to clear something or whatever. They know, your higher self knows you can do this, you've got this, right? So this happened on Sunday, and I realized, because I'd never ever in the past remembered the actual week. I've remembered a holiday and just about everything about it, but not the actual week. So I went deeper, and the last couple of days I've felt a really interesting energy, a lot of like things coming up, and I'm thinking, is that got to do with anything that happened on the holiday and things like that? And so I also had my dad's birthday on Monday. He's been gone many, many years, but I always feel that energy when it comes up. And his birthday is on the 29th. I'm filming this on Monday. I'm filming this in Australia on the Wednesday. So I was feeling these energies and thinking, where's the relevance? And so this morning I dive deep, however you say that, into the energy and what my higher self and spirit was trying to show me. And what I wanted to share is, first of all, as I went through the layers, because when I'm looking at things and I'm releasing, and then I'm like, yeah, and this, and I'm having awareness in other areas. And first of all, I want to share that beyond the releasing and the forgiveness, when you get to that non-judgment of self and others, when you get to that unconditional loving and realizing that there's no mistakes, it's just what happened at the time, because you both were at that consciousness level, right? So it happened how it was meant to happen, because there's no right or wrong in that, how things played out, because that's where you were in your own healing journey. Or if you hadn't started in your healing journey, which we hadn't started our healing journey, well, I hadn't started mine. So this holiday was actually the catalyst for me to start my inner child healing work. I had awakened several years earlier, and cycled through many dark nights of the soul, but I was really lost because I wasn't a part of any groups or communities or anything that even showed me hey, you got to be doing this inner child healing stuff, right? So that took a while, but that was the catalyst. And but anyway, we went and had this amazing holiday, but we triggered the fuck out of each other. So there was things that we were suppressing, things that like walls going up and all sorts of things happening at times. There was other times where we just had amazing times. But there was times when, obviously, when you're sharing 24/7 with somebody in a room as well, and you have this connection, it's very triggering if there's things you haven't, that are coming up that you haven't looked at. And in my case, I hadn't looked at any of it. I was still in that unworthiness energy, like not loving myself, just really critical of myself in every way, how I looked, how I spoke, how I dressed, how I responded to people, like shared things, all sorts of stuff. So I wanted to share a little bit about what happened, but also the main messages as I go along. And if you have this opportunity, I want to help you by not making the same decisions. I'm not going to say mistakes, because if that's how it's meant to be, it'll be, but because we learn and grow from that. And if I had this trip all over again, like 10 years on, oh my God, I would not do hardly any of the things that I did, or said. I was so in ego, guys, back then, and totally hadn't healed anything pretty much. So we grow and we evolve and we change, and then we look back and we see that consciousness, why we made those decisions, from our insecurities, from our unworthiness, from our own not loving ourselves, our inability to be able to communicate our feelings, open our heart, just being pretty spiritually immature, all that sort of stuff. So what happened is, I originally suggested and really wanted this holiday bad because I felt, which was the first thing that I guess was what I was seeing from my consciousness, but it was beyond that. I felt that people were interfering with us. And I felt that if we got away, then there's no one turning up in the driveway, there's no one phoning, there's no one ringing and saying, hey, can you come here, and him running off or me running off. I just felt if we go far enough away, and we did, we went to far north Queensland, then nobody's around to disturb us, and I felt that we could then go deeper in our relationship and just open and express more, and we just would have the opportunity, right, to even feel like, to try and get comfortable, to feel that we could do that. And if things came up, we could talk about it, and we could maybe work through things, and we could just see what was going on, so that was 10 years ago. So we still were both very in ego. The energies on the planet were very different. It was very dense, and neither one of us were good at expressing ourselves, put it that way. So first of all, I had that expectation, which you should never go with expectations, because then sometimes they can disappoint, and disappointment is a judgment. Okay, so you don't want to do that. You just want to be able to say, okay, that's fine the way it is, because that's where we are, that's where you are, that's where I am in our consciousness. We're still working through stuff. There's no right or wrong, and I should have been more, and I'm saying should have because I didn't know at the time, so it's not really a judgment. So, but what I can see now is it would have been good for me to be more honoring of his feelings and where he was at. And if he wasn't ready to express, that's fine. Just hold that space and love him unconditionally for that. So we weren't in the energy of that back then. And so things happened and things went down, and because of my insecurities around myself, he put up the wall, and I was always like, I'm not saying that's why he put up the wall, I'm just saying when he put up the wall, because of that, I was like, what's wrong? You know, what have I done? And should I have done this? And I went straight into that people-pleasing mode of like, oh, you know, have I hurt him? Have I done something? Have I said something? And, you know, and why don't you want to talk to me? And why don't you want to open up? And why can't, da 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 da, you know, this whole nagging shit show I had going on. And so, and I'm okay to say that about myself. So, I look back now and I think, oh God, no wonder you put up the wall and stacked the next brick on top. As I went on, we had some beautiful moments, guys. We really did. And I look back on it as something that I would never want to not happen. Like I'm so grateful that we went away and we experienced all. But these connections, as you know, it's trigger city when you've not done your work, and we were both getting massively triggered. And I think that he shuts down as well, and he struggles to express, but he, like, from his heart, his true heart, but at the same time he would feel in my energy, because we feel each other's energy, so I could feel him being resistant to open up, but then he's obviously feeling, and it was 11:11 when I just looked at that then, like 11 minutes 11 seconds, and but he might have been like doing that because it comes from the feminine, right? So the masculine take their cue from the feminine, so he may have been feeling, it probably was in my energy, how I was feeling about myself. Like he would have felt the energy of my insecurities, my judgment, my jealousy, my everything, right? Jealousy was around him and other girls, and you know, just other stuff. So he would have felt all that because we're each other's energy, right? So he's felt that in the energy and probably got confused as fuck as well, because neither of us knew what this connection was at that time. I will just point out before I continue, I don't think I said this at the start, my divine masculine and I were in a relationship on and off for many years, for 9 years actually, before in 2017 he made the choice to go off with someone else, and we haven't seen each other since. So but prior to that, we were in on and off in this relationship for 9 years, until he made the choice to go off. So but the holiday was 10 years ago, this same week. So anyway, he put the wall up, and just the bricks I could feel kept getting stacked on top, and I was trying harder and harder. And so I want to share this with the feminine, because the harder you try to push your masculine, push that wall down, break through, get them to speak, the harder you push, the more they'll put the wall up, or the more they'll energetically run away. So that's one thing not to do. If you could, look, I know it's sort of hard if you're not healed in yourself and you have these insecurities, you'll automatically go to blame them, which is what most of the divine feminine population do. They go to blame their masculine. They say that they've done this and they've run away and they've done that, But just remember, the feminine is the magnetic energy. Whatever is going on in you is what you're magnetizing to yourself. It's what they feel. So these connections are real. I have, doesn't matter what else is on the internet to say that it's not. That will usually come from divine feminines that have been deeply hurt, or in their own sense not done their own work. I'm not getting into all of that. This is my moment, it's our moment, I'm talking about our holiday and our situation. So, but I just wanted to share that as well, that a lot of feminines don't realize that they are the actual magnetic one. So they lead to, before their masculine comes along, they lead in the energy, okay? So whatever you've got going on in yourself, which for me was a whole shit show of stuff, he would have been feeling that. So he's then reacting in his energy in accordance to that. So, and there was moments where we were having so much fun, and our guards were down, and we were more open with each other, and in a beautiful energy, in a relaxed energy, and all that sort of stuff as well. So you can kind of get to know, right? Like, we're not silly, we're not stupid. We know when we're in our ego, and we know when we say things that we shouldn't, and we know when we're doing things from a trauma, in the sense of from our own insecurities or jealousy or judgment or whatever. And we know we shouldn't be doing that. Okay, it's time for us to really become mature beings, mature spiritual beings. Okay, we are, I know, having this human being experience because we are spirit form, we are soul living in this human vessel and having that human experience. So there's no judgment on that, but it's just like, that's where we were at the time. And if you're listening to this, no judgment on what you've done in the past either, but this can all help you to move forward. So on this trip, I also asked him to marry me. I just thought I'd put that in there. And I wanted to share that because at the time I don't know where the courage came from, but it just came out of nowhere. But what happened is, this is how Spirit set it up. So we stayed on a golf course, and he went and played golf, and I was watching, and we were in one of those little buggies, you know, that you drive. And he was driving, and we were coming around for the next hole. And I think we were coming to the end of it anyway. There was a couple of holes to go, and we came around this bend, and lo and behold, there was a wedding. Someone was getting married on the golf course. And I was just oblivious, like I saw the wedding, but he just stopped the cart straight away. And I'm like, oh yeah, good idea. Because I probably would have actually just soared straight on past. I'm just calling it like it is. I don't think sometimes. So I probably would have just sailed straight on past, and they would have had the noise, but he stopped. Which was I thought, oh, that's so beautiful. You're really respecting their space and their ceremony, because they were actually in the middle of the ceremony. So he just thought that it would be a bit loud to drive on by. So we stopped, and then we had to watch the wedding before we left again, because he turned off the cart and it was going to make a noise. So we're sitting in this cart watching this wedding, and it was just beautiful. And I knew immediately that, I was in my ego a lot, but I did know that higher self, like I'd started my spiritual journey and all of that, and I knew that this was happening for a reason. And I always knew from the bottom of my heart, I wanted to marry him. And as a conscious couple, not necessarily the traditional wedding ceremony, but as a beautiful ceremony of a conscious connection together. But I wanted to marry him. And before that, I hadn't been very open about that at all. In fact, I'd probably given off the energy of opposite to him. So I thought this was my opportunity to share with him and show him how I felt. So I said to him, but I didn't say it in the traditional way of, will you marry me? And I kind of said it in a bit of a flaky way, so I can understand. But not saying that it probably might not have made any difference. But I had said to him something like that should be us. We should get married while we're up here and just live up here. I didn't mean live on the golf course, but like live up here, because we just loved it up there, and move up here. And so I said, yeah, we should get married. And he didn't say anything. He just kept looking at the wedding, and then he looked at me, and then he just looked back at the wedding, and he never said a word. So I started to think, shit, I shouldn't have said that. So I just started, I don't know, I said something else. I started another conversation, probably about a bird or something that was hanging around, and nothing more was said. And then when the ceremony finished, he started up the cart and off we went. Nothing was said about it again. That wedding actually, they had the reception there, and they had fireworks that night. And so we both, we were having a drink, and we went out on the balcony and we were looking up. We were standing side by side and we were looking up at the fireworks together. And there was a moment definitely when we looked at each other and we looked up the fireworks and we just said, you know, isn't it beautiful? Something like that. What a beautiful place to get married. And I wasn't going to say anything else. And that was it. So that the moment passed by, and I can look back now and say that whilst I had the courage to say that, we were definitely, you know, not in the consciousness yet to be able to take on everything that was going to be thrown at us and triggered. And I guess that's what that week was showing us. You can think you're ready, but you're not always ready. I've always had this feeling with my masculine and I that we could, if we just had each other's back and we just held space, we could get through it together. Like if we both, so when I say, for instance, if we were together, if I was going through stuff and purging and having rough moments and stuff like that, I always felt that he could handle that and hold that space for me, and vice versa. If he was going through it, I could. But I knew that we had to actually admit to each other our feelings more deeply, and that, you know, how strong the love was, and be in that open, transparent state to do that. And you do need to, if you're going to be with somebody, you need to be in an open, transparent state, so that you, when you do get triggered and things, you don't run away, you don't pack your bags and off you go, you don't judge the other person, you don't scream and shout and fight and carry on. That's all 3D vibrational relationships. It's not conscious relationships, but it's also not a mature way of handling things, in the sense of, like, yeah, things can get tough, but if you know and trust that person is there for you and has your back and can hold that space, they're just going through it and they'll come out the other side, right? So I always did feel that we could do that. Never had the opportunity because we never worked out that way. But I always believed in us enough that we could be a pair against all the other odds of everyone saying you can't do that in this connection. I always felt we could. Anyway, but what Spirit showed me today was a lot of things about this trip, in that none of it was a mistake or anything that I should be judging myself or him for, or just the whole situation or the trip, because it is where we were at in that consciousness. And we create from the consciousness we're in, right? So your reactions and responses are going to be from that level of consciousness. So if you're in fear and you're still holding insecurities, unworthiness, unlove for yourself, like not loving yourself, if you're still in that space, you're going to react very differently. You're going to get defensive, you're going to get resistant, you're going to shut things out, you're going to push things down, you're still going to be in that old loopy pattern, right, of those programs. So it's a must to have to work through that and have the awareness. And you literally don't have the awareness back then, or you would do it differently, right? If you had the awareness, you would have the higher consciousness of how to respond in a situation, or how to react, or you know, what to do in that situation. So that all comes with heart openings, more heart openings. It comes with you know, transparency, and trust is a huge one. To trust that person, and you can do that by just the forgiveness. If I had turned around and just said, it's okay, you know what, if to him, if you want to shut down, if you want to build those walls, that's okay. If I had said something like, it's okay, I'm not going to say anything, I'm here for you. All I needed to say is, I'm just here if you need me, and not judge him, and not make him feel like I didn't love him unconditionally, not make him feel like that he was doing something wrong, or that he was in the wrong, or that he was an awful person, or anything like that, which people think that when you judge them, okay? And especially if you're judging yourself, and they're where they are, and they want to help you, but they can't because they can't get past their stuff to kind of help you. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of guilt then comes into it. We project that onto each other, and we don't realize we're doing that. So the whole kind of moral to the story, with a lot of other hidden treasures in there, Spirit was showing me, is that the level beyond the unconditional love and forgiveness, I nearly blended them together, is just acceptance and allowance and loving that, just, and knowing that there are no mistakes. That's just happened, and we don't know in a bigger picture that those things might not have had to play out and play a big role for us for the next stage of our journeys, the next stage of our healing. I've already said it was a catalyst for me. Straight after that, I enlisted a coach within 6 months, and I was getting help and getting coached with all my trauma and inner child healing work and And then 12 months after that, I became a coach myself. Like, I took or got certified, and or 18 months after that, I was and was actually doing this work to help people as well. So there's things that happen, and would we love them to go differently at the time? Yeah, of course we would. Would we love to have the awareness and be in a more loving, unconditional state so that it can go more smoothly, and open our hearts and be more embracive of each other, and loving and affectionate and kind, and just bring in that beautiful passion? Of course. But sometimes our fears get in the way. Lots of times, if we haven't healed, our fears will jump in the way, and we'll be in ego. And the ego, unfortunately, then steers the boat, or drives the car, so to speak. And we have to learn to dissect that ego and what's really going on, and know to put it in the back seat, and the heart and soul in the front seat. So I've probably gone on longer on this video, but I wanted to share that with you, a little bit of insight. So if you are coming into moments with your divine masculine or conscious partner, soulmate, whatever, try and approach it with the awareness of a more a higher consciousness, conscious relationship, not the old 3D shit. That's not going to sustain on 3D, in New Earth anyway, those energies. And it's really time about stepping into spiritual maturity and moving on up. And hey, no judgment, because I've definitely just shared with you my whole shit show of being in my ego. But part of me doing all that work and doing this is where I can share my message with people. I'm probably going to be sharing a lot less, actually, because I just feel recently I just want to be a little bit more private. And and I don't really know how far and wide my messages go, but I'm sure this will help someone out there. Thank you for listening. And is there anything else, Spirit, I want to say in this video? I just want to finish off by saying how grateful I am for the holiday we still took. No time ever would I say I wish I didn't take that holiday. How grateful, how amazing. And he said to me, even when we'd gone through so much, he said, we've just had the most amazing time away together. And I remember being in ego and looking at him and going, oh, do you think like we've fought and we've argued? And he goes, no, we have. It's been amazing. So I think he was a little bit more, he was definitely tapped into his wisdom more than me, and I think he was more advanced on his path than me at that time, to understand that it is what it is. Like, that's one thing about him, he's never judgy, really. So he kind of judges himself, or used to judge himself. He never used to love himself, and he used to blame himself and carried guilt, and always felt like he had to sort of impress people in a way, and hold up to some type of impression, that they had of him or whatever. So he judged himself a lot, but he was never really judgy of other people. And so he was sort of more evolved that way than me. And I'm just so grateful for the experience. And so if you have the opportunity, don't shy away from anything and just approach it with a really conscious, higher conscious approach. And if you're being triggered, just approach it with the energy. You know you're triggered, so just be honest and say, I'm being massively triggered at the moment. I might not say the right things, I might not do the right things, I kind of probably need a little help in this area, or whatever it is that you want to ask. Be open enough to ask that. Be open enough to admit it. Okay. And any other messages? Just to go within and know that it's not an external situation. So for me, at the start, when I said I wanted us to get away because I had an expectation that this is why it would be better, well, it had nothing to do with, at the end of the day, yes, you get interference, but at the end of the day, it was about us. Were we at that level of consciousness and ready to be able to, what we both wanted, bring through in the relationship to each other? Yeah, that's it really. Like, just to be more mindful of that, I guess. And in your heart space, just be more solid is what I'm hearing, in your knowing of who you are, and your heart and your soul and your connection and the love that you can give and express. Don't be afraid. Take chances. Have the